Okay, cool. Chuck, any questions before we get started?
No, I don't think so. I'm just happy to be here.
Good luck.
Hello, everybody. My name is Lat Mackey, and this is Sequence Break, episode 41, When Chuck Attacks, in person. Chuck, how you doing, man?
Doing fantastic, man.
I am so excited. There are many reasons. I pretty much get excited basically for anything, but there's a real bunch of reasons that I'm so excited that you first of all said yes and that you're actually here. First off, you may be the first Twitch streamer that I subscribed to when I started watching Twitch 15 or 16, right around there. So long history with, wow. I've mostly been a lurker and things like that, but I'm a huge fan of your stream over those years, and it's changed and it's gone through all these incarnations, which has been really awesome. So thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, you're very welcome. And thank you. For being a viewer. The
way that I found your stream, and I'm curious if anybody else has a similar experience than I did, was through your Super Mario Brothers 3 tutorial. And one of the things is just the highest praise I can give to it is that people are still using it now, and it's 4 or 5 years later, and people are still using your tutorial. Did you think it was going to have that kind of longevity when you made it?
No, absolutely not. And it's actually, I checked, and it's 6 years old. I mean, yeah.
Wow. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, that's when I first started watching you.
I think it was posted to speedrun.com 4 years ago, but it was actually made 6 years ago. And no, I wasn't sure anyone would watch it. It ended up being this overly long 6-hour video on a 1-hour run, and I really didn't have any idea how hard it was going to be going into it. I didn't really have a plan. I just thought, I know this game. This shouldn't be that hard. I'll just run through it and talk about what I'm doing. It'll be easy. And I think like 5 minutes in, I thought, man, this is going to be really hard.
It might be my favorite part of the tutorial. You're just like, you could just kind of see it on your face. You're like, that wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be.
The realization of having to stop in each little place and really go through my thoughts. It was very complex, and I wasn't sure if anyone was going to get any use out of it. But I made it because there really wasn't any kind of thing like that yet for Mario 3, just to give people the little basics that they might not notice just by watching a run. Like, you can do a full jump off of this background object and land in this one block that looks hard, but it's very easy because it's very easy cues to go by. And I thought if I could share that with more people, then maybe they'll be interested in running the game too, because it didn't have a big set of runners at the time, and I wanted more people to join in.
And that's, I think, one thing that's kind of interesting is that, like, I didn't realize, I guess just maybe because I was in it, I didn't realize how smaller it was compared to like Mario 64 and some of the other games that were, have continued to have these huge giant leaderboards and stuff like that. So it's interesting. It's interesting that you mentioned that there wasn't a whole lot of supporting material to support it, because there was some fierce competition at the top of the leaderboards, yes, which you participated in like quite actively. So that's one thing that kind of surprised me, that there wasn't this tutorial just readily available for everyone to use.
Yeah, for a game that's as popular as that game is, one of maybe the best-selling Nintendo game ever.
Right,
on the NES.
Yeah.
And yet the speedrunning community was so small. I mean, there was just a handful of active runners, and that was it. It shocked me.
It really surprises me, and I think that's a really good starting point. So take us back a little bit. What games did you grow up with? What was your first console? What were some of some of your early games that you have memories of?
Gosh, well, if we go back to the very beginning, I was 3 or 4, and I actually found an old picture of I'm watching my uncle play Pitfall on his Atari.
Yes,
and that was my first experience. Make sure you can get a good look
that is
there.
So cool.
Yeah, very vintage there.
Look at that.
So, yeah.
The joystick and everything. I love it.
Oh yeah, so I got into those. I'm instantly addicted. I played games like Joust, Pac-Man, Archon, Crystal Castles, Jungle Hunt, even E.T., the infamous game that crashed the industry. And it's just as bad as everyone remembers. It's so bad.
I'm curious, did you think it was a bad game when you played it as a kid? Do you remember having that thought?
I just didn't know how to play it. Like it really is. You just walk around and fall in holes, and that's all it is. And I thought, what? Even at 4 years old, I thought, what else? What am I supposed to do? Like, is this even a game?
Right.
You know, it's really as bad as people say.
I've never actually given it a playthrough, but nowadays the developer has given quite a few interviews on, you know, this 6-week turnaround, basically did it all himself. Like, I mean, the story is infamous at this point, but I can only imagine playing that game as a kid and just wondering, what's going on? Is this even a game?
Yeah.
But you're pressing buttons, it's on the TV, it probably seems impressive, you know?
Oh yeah. The first console that was mine was the NES, and I got for I guess it was 5. I got it for Christmas, and yeah, I really kicked off from there. My uncle, my dad, my grandpa were all playing Duck Hunt, and I just had to sit there and watch for a while.
That's brutal.
You know, couldn't even play my new systems. Like, I want to play Mario.
Yeah.
You know, come on, guys.
Please.
I eventually got my turn.
I don't know if you grew up with, I have 2 brothers, and so I had to grow up, you know, sometimes you had to pass the controller off to somebody and just like, no, this is the worst thing ever, you know, as a kid, so.
Oh yeah, I had 2 younger brothers, so yeah.
Having to share video games, no. Is there a game that particularly caught your imagination early on that you can remember maybe putting a little more time into compared to another game?
There were a few that I really stuck with. The original Zelda, Mario 3, of course. Even then, it was just a fantastic game. I liked adventure games like Battle of Olympus, even Zelda 2, Faxanadu.
Mm-hmm. Faxanadu, great one.
I had Battletoads.
Were you able to beat it?
Not as a kid, no. I can now, but no, I never beat it legit as a kid. I got very familiar with the first 3 levels, as most kids did. Even a little further than that, but I never actually beat the game legit until I was an adult.
I've always wondered if they play tested games with kids at all growing up, because I, like everyone else, I probably shared the same Battletoads experience. You get to the, you know, the speeders and that's about it. But that game is so amazingly designed, it's just incredibly challenging, but I've always been blown away still today by the visuals of the game. And I'm always curious, like, I wonder if the developers like let a kid try this thing out, you know?
Exactly.
Probably not. Are there any games you remember beating as a kid?
As a kid, let's see. There were some like the first 3 Mario games. I did beat all those. Cool. Mario 2 less than the others because of the limited continues, and limited 1-ups even available.
Yeah, right.
But there were those. River City Ransom.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah, good beat 'em up.
That has a little speedrunning community around it.
Oh yeah. What else?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there were a few others, but I like beating games. Bubble Bobble, that was one I liked.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep. Adventures of Lolo, another series I really enjoyed.
Absolutely.
Puzzle games.
And so I'm curious, as you're growing up, learning to play video games, is there a point, or do you ever get the bug where you just want to start breaking games or playing games in a different way than maybe that they were intended to? I'm always curious, like when do you get the itch for the speedrunning?
Not in the way that I speedrun now. I think it was mainly Mario Kart 64.
Oh, there you go.
I just would try to drive everywhere imaginable.
Yes.
You know, I just load up a time trial and just try to drive up mountains and see if I could get over to the other side and just jump off of things.
Yeah, totally.
And yeah, even my mom would comment that if there were bugs in the game, I'd find it somehow. I was like, man, maybe I would. But that's one instance that I definitely remember, just trying to go outside the box.
Do you grow up with games? Are you a Nintendo person? Do you explore any of the other libraries or consoles or anything like that as you're growing up?
I was mainly a Nintendo kid. I had a Genesis for a short time, only like 1-2 games for it maybe, so didn't really get a lot with that. I did get a PS1 around when I was 16, I think, so a little later, but yeah, mainly Nintendo, and then I kept getting the PlayStations, and
You do something on your stream where in your panels you actually have the games that you own. And I wasn't much of a collector before I started speedrunning. And then now all of a sudden I've got, I own all these cards for games that I want to run and stuff like that. Did you save or did you ever have that collecting bug, or did you save any of your childhood games or anything like that, consoles like that?
Oh yeah. Yep. I have almost everything that I've had as a kid. No boxes, sadly. That's the, you're a kid, you never think this box is going to be worth a lot one day, So sadly, no game boxes, but I do have a lot of instruction manuals. Almost every game I had as a kid, like all my NES, SNES, and all those.
There's something to it. I don't have a lot of I have some of them, but there's just something about having those old carts, like the ones you grew up with, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, like I run Mario 3 on my childhood cart.
Wow! Oh, that is so cool. I'm sure it's seen some miles.
6th birthday.
Oh, you got it. I was gonna ask. So what'd you get? Okay, you got it. That was for birthday gift.
Yep. It was. It's funny because the game came out, I think, February 12th, 1990, and I turned 6 on February 14th, 1990.
Great timing.
Yeah. Mom went to Toys R Us, I think, to buy Mario 2, and they didn't have it, but they just had this new game called Mario 3. I said, "Well, awesome!"
Best birthday gift ever.
It really was, and I remember we would leave the console on for, I think, probably days because there were no saves, and new game, hard game, long game, and so we didn't want to lose our progress, so we just left it on all the time.
Yeah, I wondered if you had this same memory or feeling, because the game probably came out, SMB3 probably came out when I was like 7 years old or so, and it seemed like the first blockbuster game that I can remember. Like there was hype around. I don't even know how the hype got started, but there was hype around it. Like we didn't have the internet or anything, and I'm wondering if you had did you know SMB3 was coming out? Is it a game that you wanted to play?
I don't know if I did actually. Okay. I actually haven't even seen the movie The Wizard. Still,
you're losing your geek cred there.
I know. But so I'm sure that came out before the game did, right? So it generated a lot of interest. But I know I wasn't aware of that. I did get Nintendo Power magazine, but I don't know if I got it that early. I don't think I did. I don't think I got the first few issues. I started in maybe a year into their run. So I think it was just completely brand new for me, which how cool is that?
That is way awesome. And then it sounds like you were hooked pretty quickly as well. So that's a good thing as well. We have some, I just want to give a quick shout out. Hey, Sweden, hey, Suffer, Oglib, Sven's in the chat. We were talking about Sven a little bit earlier, but Sven's in the chat.
Awesome.
Hey, Oglib. So let's tell us, when did you first then discover speedrunning? How do you get into the whole speedrunning thing? How does that work?
Well, I guess the first example of it was the infamous Mario 3 task that just about everyone saw back when it came out, wondering what in the world they were watching.
It's been mentioned numerous times on this podcast.
Sure it's amazing how much traction that video got. And then I dug up as much as I could on it because I still love the game, and realized it was more or less how it was made, and that was that, and never really thought much about it after that. And then I guess it was I saw a stream of, I don't know if you're familiar with, they're called the Speed Gamers. They were, I think they predate GDQ by maybe a few years.
I think you're right. Yeah.
And I just happened to see a link to their stream on, I don't know, some gaming news site, and thought, oh, neat, a gaming stream. This was in 2009. I dug up the date so I'd have that ready.
Yeah.
And was like, oh, this is awesome. It was a Final Fantasy marathon. I thought, well, especially, wow, beating these games in multiple games and in one stream, like how?
It's not 40 hours long. What's going on?
I had spent weeks, months playing one game, as far as that went. So I was hooked for the whole week, and it was just so much fun. And well, I didn't watch speedrunning in the sense that probably we know it now, just the grinding, resetting, just playing over and over and over again and timing yourself. It was soon after I started streaming. I was just playing Super Metroid, and I wanted to beat it in, I think, I wanted to get under an hour in game time. And Cassius came in and was watching, and he's a long retired Super Metroid runner, and if he sees this, he'll shake his head at me for mentioning him. He hates it when I do that. So he was talking about his times and how quickly he could do it. I was like, no way, you're crazy. How do you even? So I watched his stream, and it was just like, wow, people can play like this. This is so cool. And it blew my mind that he would play the entire game and then play it again. I'm like, I never would do that. And it was just such a weird concept to me. Like, how do you not get bored with that?
Right.
And, I mean, and just last week I ran Mario 3 twice in a row, back to back. But it was just a completely foreign concept to me.
It's kind of crazy that you're into it as Super Metroid. Now that it's the game that it is today, as far as speedrunning goes, I am still impressed by the amount of just flat out skill it takes to play that game at speedrun it at all. One of my favorite things to do is to actually, I mean, we haven't had live events now in a while, but when you're at a live event, seeing people actually play it and seeing what they're doing with the controller, with the R's and L's and with all of the inputs that they're doing, it's flat out insane. So the fact that was kind of a game that you wanted to challenge yourself to try to beat quickly kind of blows my mind. But so did you continue pursuing it, or did you end up trying something different when you decided to do it yourself?
I think I feel like I did get the sub hour.
Nice.
Now that's game time, not real time, which is much more manageable. But that was a favorite game of mine as a kid too, and the fact that it keeps track of your time was always an incentive to maybe how fast can I beat it this time.
It kind of is one of the perfect speedrun games, besides just being, in my opinion, one of the better games that maybe we've ever seen ever. It's such a great game, but as a speed game, it's like built for speedrunning. Like it's got all of these things built in. So once, is there at some point, do you decide to, hey, I'm going to get I'm going to start timing my runs, that kind of thing? Like, what's the development into the into speedrunning for you?
Oh, well, I guess the first real speed run that I would say I did was actually a race a couple months after I started streaming. It was a 4-way Mega Man X race. Another streamer that got started around the same time I did, Bagel 411, not a speedrunner, but a great caster. He decided to host a race where they'd qualify by running the intro and any 2 levels they wanted, and at the end of that, the top 4 times would be in the race. So a neat concept, and so cool. I thought, well, I like that game a lot, and I like Bagel stream, so I'm going to try to get into this, and I did. I don't remember which spot I qualified in, but I got help with another streamer, Surreal, who was a Mega Man X runner at the time, and one of my viewers, an awesome guy, and he kind of coached me into learning the game somewhat, to an extent, enough to be competitive, I guess, and so qualified, and then ended up winning the race, and it was just such a huge rush and so much fun, and I dug this out too, and got a prize, this cool artwork.
Whoa!
From a now defunct game news site called Game Blurb. They don't exist anymore, but I got this as a memento.
That is so cool.
And I thought, man, that was a rush. I mean, I want to do more of that. And so racing is what really drove the desire to keep speedrunning for me. And I don't know that I started really timing and grinding runs until maybe at least a year after that race.
I do got to ask then. So, would you say that you have a competitive itch to you, hearing about the racing and things like that?
It's more like competitive poison ivy.
Okay, so my wife is uber competitive, and I like bettering myself, but I'm not the most competitive person. So she just doesn't understand people who don't want to always win all the time, you know. So I'm curious if you have some of those similar thoughts.
I do. I try to turn everything into a competition, and I hate losing. I'm such a if there's one thing I could change, it would be my grace in losing.
Well, it makes for good speed running. I'll just be honest. That's like a great approach. I mean, and I don't know how you feel about it, but typically, speed running is a competition against yourself. Yes, there are other people who are putting up times, but for the most part, the best way to improve is to improve your own time, improve your own skills. You know, there's really no. I mean, I guess you could go out and sabotage other people, but I mean, that doesn't really exist in our community. So that's actually probably a good approach to have for speedrunning, is to have some of that competitive.
Did you see when Pooh kicked the console? Or was it the other way around?
No, it was Pooh. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's absolutely correct. That's a good point. Live and in person, only in front of a couple 100,000 people. No, okay. No, okay. That's actually really introspective, though, that you're aware of that for yourself. And so, does that lead then to? Is there a game that you finally? I mean, I assume at some point it's going to be SMB3. But was there anything that you got the itch for before SMB3, or was that like kind of the game?
That really was the game. The what's funny is after I did that Mega Man X race, I basically just stopped playing. I was like, well, my work's done. I'm done with this game. I never even timed a run of it at any point. No. I just need to win this race. That's my only goal right now. And once I won, it was over. I never played it.
Right off into the sunset.
I did eventually join a Mega Man X tournament, and then I relearned the game and improved a great deal. But up until that point, no, I never really did.
Wow.
But SMB3 was it was the game that kicked everything off for me.
Was there anybody else running it at the time that that got you going?
There was the runner Giga. I forget his numbers. 883.
Yeah,
something.
I think his times are still on the leaderboard.
At least I know his 100% is. I think he resubmitted it. I don't know about Warpless, but there was let's see, there was another just fun race that I had with another streamer, Big Richie, not a speedrunner, more a variety caster, but he came onto my stream and challenged me and said, okay, he'd raced me in Mario 3 100%, no P-wings. That was those stipulations, and the loser had to shave his beard off. So, I got this. You're on. I got this. And I did win that, but he didn't follow the beard shaving. which is fine. I was just happy to win. But then after that, I was like, that was fun too. I want to do that some more. And so Giga loves Mario 3. He was always streaming it, and he said, I'd like to race anytime. And I said, me too. So we started having these races in the evenings every now and then. And we would do usually, I think, just 100%. We didn't know about Warpless at the time. We didn't know that existed. And yeah, they were really popular. Like, people just really enjoyed watching these. And we started wondering, what is the record for this? Like, what's the best time out there? And we dug around, and really all we could find, because this was before speedrun.com, all we found was a very old video on Speed Demos Archive of the All-Stars version, and I think we already had better times than that. And we're like, do we have the record? No one was? How does this work? Like, who's actually the best? And so there wasn't any. People don't realize before speedrun.com there was no unifying leaderboard anywhere, and you just really had to find other people that ran it. And it's like, well, what's your time? Where do we keep track of this stuff? I think it may have been pinned in the SRL topic, in the SMB3 board room. I don't know. It was just hard to find things back then.
Oh, but the things we take for granted nowadays, that's, But I mean, that's okay. So I'm curious if then, because that's pretty interesting. So you got to do some work to find some of these things, even if they exist. But I've noticed, and one of the things that's come up quite a bit is that's how you start realizing there are other people who are interested in this thing. And I'm curious if you found any other new runners, like as you're going down this rabbit hole.
We did. Giga may have found him first, but I think we all know Kirua, the excellent runner. And,
legendary runs.
Yes. Former record holder of all the categories. And basically we started watching him and trying to do everything he did. It's like, okay, he knows a lot more than we do. We need to learn these tricks. And so that's when we really started grinding in high gear.
It seems like it was kind of just this like natural thing too. It wasn't something that, hey, I'm going to start resetting now after I finish runs. It sounds like something that you just kept pursuing. And I think it's interesting. I kind of want to talk about streaming at the same time because the speedrunning and I know streaming start happening basically at the same time. Are you doing on your own stream? Are you just exclusively doing speedruns? Are you still, because one of the things that I really have always appreciated about your stream is the variety of content. Yes, you do the speed. I mean, back in the day when you were streaming a little more regularly, there was always the speedruns, but then there was all these other games and could always see you playing something different kind of thing. Was that happening at the same time early on too?
Yeah. I think around 2013, 2014, it was very heavily on the speedrunning side because it was, selfishly, it was very popular, and that's I thought, well, I'm going to keep doing this because it's doing well.
Yeah.
So and I was still enjoying it a lot at that point, and still improving, and and. I'm the type of person I have to switch the game up,
right?
Pretty regularly, just to get a new taste of something after a while. Because, that's just how I've always been. Like that's why I could never fathom playing the same game twice in a row. I was like, well, just got to do something different, man.
I don't know how Mitch does it, but he still manages to grind SMB3 like forever.
I don't know either.
It's kind of crazy. I think it takes a special or a certain kind of personality and approach to do that kind of thing.
It does.
So you started streaming in a time that I wasn't that aware that streaming was even possible with the technology and the internet access we had here in the States. What made you decide to take a leap and to try this streaming or to do this streaming thing? Because it sounds like were you saying 2009 might have been your first live stream or somewhere? What was the year there?
That's the first stream I watched.
Okay.
The Speed Gamers Marathon, and then I watched them again the next year because they did little weekend marathons during the other parts of the year, but over the summer they did a whole week. And the year after that, 2010, they did Mario games. And that really got my interest on, well, I could probably beat these as fast as they can. But just the idea, it was just in a guy's house and just had friends over each running the games. And it's like, man, this is just, I wish I could do that.
It's the dream.
I got married in 2008, and when that happens, you don't get to just. No, I'm not knocking being married. Now, don't get me wrong.
Totally.
But your life changes,
yes.
and you can't just spend the whole day playing video games with your buds.
Very
sometimes.
True. Very true.
That's just the way it is sometimes. And I just got this feeling like, man, I just wish I could recreate that. Like, just how much fun they were having. Like, I wish I could play games with my friends again, like that. And so it was February 2011 when I first started streaming, and I just wanted to maybe get some of my friends to watch, just play some things and see if they'd hang out and chat and see that could be fun. Never expected like a bunch of new people that I didn't know to come in. I didn't have any prior experience with it. So it snowballed quickly and really turned into something cool.
Were there many other retro streamers at the time too? Because I always wonder, like, at that time period, was anybody else like streaming retro stuff?
There were very few.
Okay.
There were very few streams at all, like of anything. If you had over 100 viewers, you were probably in the top 8.
Wow.
This wasn't even, Twitch wasn't around yet. Right. This was Justin TV. I think Twitch started around, I think their beta site came out around June of 2011. And so yeah, if you it didn't take much to be on the front, the first page 1.
Right.
And so it good. Yeah, no, and so almost all of the people who did stream knew each other. Right. More or less. They'd all been in each other's streams and they all cross promoted. And it was just like a big group of just friends that played games and hung out together. It was a much different vibe than I feel like you get now.
I mean, it's huge. There's just the numbers, it's nearly impossible to know everyone. Different. Yeah. And
no one was getting paid back then. There were no partners, there were no ads. Everyone was just hanging out on their own.
You just totally surprised me.
Other than that.
Really? Okay, yeah. I didn't know that. There was no. Oh my gosh, I had no idea. Wow.
Yeah, maybe the very biggest handful of channels may have been partnered, or even.
Wow.
Yeah, maybe just the very, very peak, but none of us did.
So this really was, we're friends and we're hanging out. That's literally what
exactly.
This is. Wow, that is so cool. Oh man, it's got a little bit of virtue to it. I kind of dig that. I mean, there are still many people, especially many of us who I have a day job, love my day job. I'd never give that up or anything. So like, it's mostly for fun, but it's nice that Twitch has enabled this way that you can make a little money so you can pay for the habit that you have of buying all these old games and stuff. So hopefully it helps out a little bit. Wow, that kind of blew my mind. When did you make the transition to Twitch? Is that when Justin TV got purchased, or how did that work, the transition for you?
I don't think I jumped over right away because it still had a lot of bugs, and I didn't really feel like beta testing their new site. I was happy with where I was.
Totally.
And it was maybe a few months after they introduced it that they said, eventually you're all going to be here anyway. So if you might as well get things how you want it before then. So I thought, okay. So I redid my whole info section and moved over, and it wasn't so bad. It was different, but not as bad. And you had a lot more back then. You could, your whole info was just done by HTML. You could make it any way you wanted. You weren't limited by these little modules. And
that's kind of nice.
Yeah, you had a lot of freedom, but you saw a lot of really just bad sections by people who didn't. A lot of people didn't know how to use HTML. I mean, no knock on them. I mean, if I hadn't had a class on it, I wouldn't know either. So.
That helps.
Yeah.
One of the things, and I'm curious if I can't remember if this has always been the way, but your stream is family friendly, and especially for those of us who game, that can be really challenging. Just people, we get emotional sometimes when we're playing our games. Was that a choice you made early on, or is that something that's happened over time?
Yeah, that was from day one. I wanted my stream to be like that, just because it suits my personality. That's just the way I wanted it, and I never knew who might watch. I wanted everybody to be able to just come in and feel comfortable. And now I have a daughter, and I'm grateful when I can find something family friendly to share with her. Like a YouTube video or something, and I'm wondering if I haven't screened it yet. It's like, is this going to go off the rails? I hope not. But I'm grateful for content like that when I can find it.
There aren't too many, and those that do have them, I think of WhenChukAttacks right away. But people where they say they're watching it with their kid in the room, and I just think that's so awesome. I've tried to be family friendly. I sometimes can't always try to keep to that, but you're one of the reasons that I decided to go that way, because look, you can still have a good time. You can still play video games without throwing the controller through the TV. It is possible. So I'm glad that was a choice early on, because I think that's really one of the great things still to this day. Not that I'm aware, I don't think you've changed, but I'm pretty sure that the stream is still family friendly today.
It is. Like occasionally I might play a game that's not family friendly. you know, like, you know, just various shooters or horror games or whatever that maybe you want to leave the kids in bed for this, but yeah, but for me as a streamer, I'll always be family friendly.
One of the
my best ability.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Exactly. The game prevents it. One of the things I love doing when I'm doing the research for the podcast is watching clips. And I usually try to go with like the most popular clips of all time. Most of the time they're you just getting destroyed or getting trolled, you know, just getting destroyed by a game. And your clips are no different. There are some really heartbreaking, but also some really awesome moments as you've been running SMB3 throughout the years. Are there any runs or any moments that kind of stick out to you? Maybe even some strats you discovered or anything like that stick out to you over your career of SMB3?
Oh, you saw the one where I jumped in the lava.
I did. I didn't want to bring it up, but
that run in particular is the last time that I got to race Kirua before he just stopped, and I was winning, and I jumped in the lava in Bowser's Castle.
It's brutal. It's totally brutal.
I had a chance to win. And Kirua beat me like, I'd say over 90% of our races.
Wow.
And we raced a lot. And I was like, oh, this is it. I'm gonna end on the ultimate high note. And then I messed up one jump, and I knew instantly it was over. And it's
so heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to watch. You can just to see your total disappointment. I was just like, oh my, I wanted to cry. It's so bad.
And I haven't gotten to race him again since. And it's
one of those things.
It's just not fair, is it? But I don't know that I've actually invented or discovered any strats in Mario 3. That was never really something I set out to do. Definitely not one of my skills. No, I just tried to copy everyone else's strats, I guess.
There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, when good strats are discovered, they're good strats for a reason, you know?
Yeah.
One thing that kind of struck out to me right away is that your 100% PB is 4 years old, and it's still a top 20 run. Is it 4 years? Is it older than 4 years old? Did I get that wrong?
I broke it last week.
Okay, well, there we go. You did not submit that time.
I didn't.
I saw you were running. I didn't realize you PB'd. That's awesome, man. Congrats.
I beat it by 0.8 seconds. So I didn't. I don't think I'm not gonna submit that one. I think I got more in the tank. But yeah, I just maybe 3 weeks ago I started just offline practicing levels again.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know. Something got the spark, and. Yeah, and I did. I streamed it. I did 2 runs. The first run was a 113 with a lot of rough edges, and then I ran it back and did a lot better and barely squeaked out a little PB. But yeah, it was. I like you said, 4 years old that run was, and I know I've got better times in me. I never really. I kind of fell out of love with 100% after I found Warpless, and I'd kind of learned the levels, but not as well as I should. And then when I would get to them, like mainly in World 6, I think, when I'd get to them in a run, I'd massively screw up, and it would just completely kill any interest I had in continuing. And then I'd turn it off and do something else. And I knew I wouldn't come back to it for months. And so that's why my PB never improved.
Well, I think it says something, though, about the run, because it's stood the test of time for quite a while. And I know 100% isn't the most popular category. I totally get that. But the fact that it's still a top 20 time still kind of blows my mind. So I was going back and watching it, and sure, there are a couple of things here and there, but it's a pretty solid run considering it's 4 years old, you know?
Yeah, I had three golds, I think. And yeah, it's not a bad run at all. But I think some new strats have been discovered, and a lot of things I could have cleaned up. You know, little time saves here and there add up.
So why? I'm curious. Is there anything that sparked the interest, or just got the itch a little bit to play the game again?
Well, let's see. One of my other games that has been taking up a lot of my time over the past year and a half is Rocket League. Extremely competitive game.
Even more so now that it's free.
Yes.
We all have influx of players.
And finally, I reached a point. I mainly play 1v1, which is the most tilting game mode there is, because it's all on you. And if you're not on your game, you're gonna get just wiped. And it happened to me, and I finally said, that's it. I'm miserable. Every time I play this, I get miserable, and I uninstalled it. And then I had to do something with my time, because that was because the games are so bite-sized. It's so easy to say, well, I got 20 minutes. I can bust out a couple Rocket League matches.
Yeah.
And then, so I was like, I have to do something to not make me want to play Rocket League anymore. So I thought, well, I'll just boot up my practice ROM and just practice levels. And that's what I did. And it worked. And then 2 weeks later, my friend wanted to play Rocket League.
You sucked back in.
And so I downloaded it and we played.
Good for that. You know what? I agree. That's one of the great things I think about Rocket League. For me, it's Hearthstone, but it's like it's something you can fire off a game, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it is, and it's enjoyable. It's a good experience, unless you get destroyed and then it's tilting. So, one of those things. I did want to ask. So one of the things I noticed, so I was going back 6 years. It looks like your consoles have had a really high display level for a long time, and I'm wondering, how did you discover what an RGB mod might have been? Because I didn't discover that until, I don't know, 15 or 16, when I started really watching streams a little bit more. How did that whole thing come about? Like, was that technology around even that far back then?
It was, and I'm not sure exactly when it was available. I'm sure it's a lot more mainstream now than it's ever been. I think I just saw a few streams myself that I thought, wow, that is crystal clear. And they're playing on console. How have they accomplished this? Because that was always something I would strive for, is just, I want everything to look and sound its best. How can I do that with what I have? And so got help from a couple people. They had explanations of their setups on their channels. And so I thought, okay, let me dig into this, and just have been slowly adding to the collection over the years. And so, I've got a few RGB modded consoles, and then running those into a FrameMeister upscaler, and it looks very crispy for the stream.
The never-ending rabbit hole. Yes, very true. Yes. Well, and that's the one thing I was really surprised, because as I was going back and watching some of your old highlights and things like that, I was like, everything. I first of all, I really appreciate that you included chat on some of your streams, because there's extra real estate when you're playing an old retro game. Typically it's 4x3 or whatever, so there's extra real estate. It's either using your timer or something like that. But just being able to see the chat, it puts you back in that place and time. And I think that's kind of nice if you are revisiting VODs from 6 or 7 years old. So
I agree.
I think it's cool. I'm glad that you thought that whole process out back in the day, because especially for something like this, it was really helpful and really kind of fun to go down memory lane and watch some of those streams and things like that. So, okay, so I got to ask, when do you first decide to then take a dive into a live event, or submit a game for a live, or attend a live event? What's kind of your history with? I'm not sure if it's GDQ or something else. What's your history with live events?
I did go to one thing before GDQ in the year before. Well, 2014. Was my first one, the Southern Speedrun Summit, with a few better known streamers,
competitive speedrunners.
We all hung out at Darbian's house and just ran a few games. It was that hanging out in somebody's room playing games atmosphere that I'd always wanted to revisit, and it was a ton of fun. And I don't. Why am I trying to say this? I do okay in situations like that. I'm not the type of person who can just hop into a group and instantly just be everyone's friend. I'm not a talkative person. When you get me in the same room, I'm better in like a one-on-one situation like this. This is a lot better for me. But yeah, if I'm in a group, I'm going to be listening and not talking, basically. But I still enjoyed being there and wanted to do it again. I actually went there 2 more times after GDQ. The GDQ I went to was July SGDQ of 2015. We'll say that. And I remember Cujo and I, we neither one of us had been, and we thought, well, last time 100% Mario 3 had been run at a GDQ was several years before, and thought, you know, we could submit a race and see if it gets in. And I don't think we really thought it would, but it did, and we were great, cool. Let's go to Minnesota, and ended up being a really, really great time. Got to meet a lot of people from my stream that had been around for years and just hang out, and yeah, that was a fantastic trip.
So a couple things there. One, my first time attending a GDQ, I shouldn't be surprised, but I was at the amount of introverts who are really great speedrunners and really great streamers. Like people who don't seem to, like you're saying, don't have any problems talking, playing a game at the same time on a stream in the comfort of the home. And then, and it's totally fine. Like I think I was really, it was eye-opening in a good way that, you can learn to respect people's boundaries and things like that. I just, being polite when you're meeting somebody live and in person, because just because they're, so outgoing on a stream doesn't necessarily mean they're that way in a public scenario.
Exactly.
I could totally relate. So I totally get you on that one. The Speedrunners Assembly you've mentioned, it's one of my favorite memories of watching live events in speed. Because first of all of you play games at such a high level, but then I'm like wondering, how do all of you live so close to each other? Like, is there something in the water where like all these great speedrunners live within driving distance or something?
I know. I mean, the Southeast has Darbian, has Lack Attack. There was Rupert. He's since moved to the Midwest, but he was from around here, and many others. Yeah. And there's just a wealth of amazing speedrunners in the Southeast.
It really is, and I couldn't agree with you more on when you attend a GDQ and meeting all of these people who are basically just, to your point, they're people who want to hang out, play some video games. They're into the same thing you are, Oh
yeah.
It's one of my. I think. I can't remember if it was 14 or 15, the first live GDQ I got a chance to watch, and I very clearly remember your race. And I just remember seeing, first of all, a game that I love out there, being raced and at such a high level. It's a very memorable race. It had great commentary, and it was a really well put together. I really appreciated that run. And I don't know, what was the prep like? Were you stressing about it, or was it focusing on the game?
I woke up nervous that day. Things like that definitely get me nervous. This interview got me nervous.
Oh no!
I'm good now, but it's just I can't help it. The hour before start time, I'm just like, stomach gets some butterflies. I'm like, oh man. But I've settled down. But and it was on Friday, so we had almost the entire week to think about it. We couldn't get it over with.
Oh no.
And Friday, I was okay until Friday morning, and then I woke up stomach with knots, and it didn't really go away until the run was over that night. But no, not a whole lot of prep. Maybe just did some light practice and just tried not to think about it too much, honestly.
It was a great performance, and I still enjoy. I'm glad that we still get to see Mario 3 being raced and presented other different ways at GDQs, because, in my opinion, it's just a great game for that kind of environment where people are cheering you on. I mean, what's it like playing with a crowd behind you? I mean, it's kind of cool having people rooting you on.
It was awesome. Yeah, the best part for me by far was getting the wall jump.
I love it. It was so good.
So happy to get that on the first try and just get a great crowd reaction. That felt amazing and made the whole thing worth it.
Have you gone back since? Like, did you ever make any other appearances or trips down to GDQ?
I haven't played in one. I did attend AGDQ 2017.
Oh, cool.
Since it was closer, it was just
it was in DC.
I'm in North Carolina. It was near DC. So a friend and I just made the drive. Didn't have to fly or anything. And
was it snowing at that point?
No, it was chilly. It was pleasantly chilly. I like it cold, but no snow.
Nice.
But that was a fun trip. Not to have to worry about anything going on in the stream room. It was just we can just do whatever we want. Didn't really have a schedule.
So one of the things I've noticed is that your speedrun.com profile, you have run and speedrun other games other than Super Mario Brothers 3. Any of them stick out to you that you've enjoyed more than the others, or runs that you've enjoyed outside of SMB3?
Yeah, I really enjoyed learning Zelda 1. I learned that for, surprise, a tournament. And I did 2 tournaments of Zelda 1. And yeah, it was a really cool game to learn how to run, because it's basically a polar opposite of Mario 3 in terms of mindset. There's the pacing, the thought process, and the movement, everything. It's just completely different, and it was so refreshing, because I was probably getting a little burnt out on Mario 3 at the time, and platformers in general. And learning that was just like, wow, this is good for me right now. And I still refuse to learn 3 first route in Zelda 1, and I never will.
You may not ever have a world record time then if you don't.
That's okay. Okay. If I can get some upsets in a tournament, that's all I want.
I think that's one of the interesting things. That's why Zelda 1 is such a great speed game. But to your point, it sounds, I've never attempted it myself, but just hearing people talk about their thought processes as they're playing the game, I'm like, don't you have to write that down? Don't you want to write that down? Don't you want to write that down? No, just keep the running tally, all those kind of things. It's a really thinking speed run, to say the least.
Oh yeah, there's tons of improvisation along the way, based on what the game gives you. So it's never the same run twice in a row.
I would say no. In the last year or two, I've been watching, I think, JSR and Lactech continue on some of their grinds, and they keep playing the game because in their minds there's always some form of improvement. There's, because of the way, as your point, the run changes all the time. I mean, there's always something you can adapt to in run, which I think is really fascinating from a speedrun. It's unlike SMB3, so unlike that.
Yes. And then I've also been running Dr. Mario for a very long time, and it's also RNG heavy. It's a game I've enjoyed since childhood. I used to play it with my mom. One of the few games that I could get her to play. And yeah, you just run through levels 0 through 20 as fast as you can. And the strategies are interesting because you want to avoid creating, broken pieces falling for the whole length of the screen. So you want to keep things tight and be as what's the word? Efficient as you can. Just no wasted pieces, no wasted movements, and it's never the same twice in a row either, because you never met with the same pattern. So, but it's such a fun game. It's really satisfying to really hit that flow state where you're just not even thinking. You're just wiping out screens with no effort, really. It's a lot of fun.
When I've watched you play Dr. Mario, it was I actually had to pay attention a little bit more than I might other times. That just sounded wrong, but because you were doing some things it was confusing to watch at first, because first of all, there can be resets early on depending on some things, but you weren't playing it the way that I had traditionally played Dr. Mario. So I'm like, why are these things happening this way? And it sounds like now I know it's the efficiency thing. That's the way that I guess you work through that game at a high level. So
yeah, pretty much.
I love the fact that you said that you can play it with your mom too. My parents, they in the middle of the night, they would take our Game Boys and play Tetris when we were asleep and stuff. And quite often it comes up like parents, Dr. Mario, Tetris. That was like the parents' game. And I'm always like, is it just the puzzle aspect, or you don't have to? I don't know what it is about it, but those games are like.
Yeah, Tetris was the other game Mom really enjoyed, and she liked watching me play Zelda, but she liked actually playing the puzzle games.
There you go. Go figure. So as life goes on and things happen, if you don't, I noticed one of the things is you still manage to stream today, even though, as you've mentioned, you're a father, you have a day job. How have you found time, or how do you continue to find time to balance some of those things? And did you have to find that balance as you've gotten older?
Yes, it's at times it's been very challenging. I would have to wait and stream until the late hours, and then maybe go to work on limited sleep just to squeeze in the hobbies and just the things I wanted to do into a 24-hour day. This past year has been the least I've streamed since the beginning. It's been a combination of things like just lack of interest.
Yeah.
And since March, everything changed, and wife and daughter have been home every day. Wife's working from home, just back here in her little workstation, and daughter was over here doing her schoolwork on her laptop, and I can't very well do a stream while all that's going on. So
a little bit challenging.
Yeah. So every now and then in the evenings when everyone's in bed, I might be able to just squeeze out a quick stream or whatever, but it's hard. It's hard to find the time sometimes, and you gotta have family time too.
Totally.
Can't. Go ahead.
I know. I think there's one thing that I find kind of interesting about being a viewer watching a streamer is that, like, I feel like I kind of know you a little bit because I've watched your stream, and there's one thing that it cracks me up a little bit, but it's such a quintessential experience, at least that I've experienced, is you'd be streaming back a couple years ago, and then the wife would come home from work, the kid would come, it was time to be a dad and be a husband and stuff like that. And so, Hey guys, I got to shut down the stream. It's time to go thing, But I think so many of us have experienced that in real life that it's such a real honest type of thing that happens, and I respected that. First of all, you got your priorities, which I can't tell you how much I respect that. And then secondly, that you did manage to find some time to do some of these things, some of these hobbies, even amidst all of that. So I'm always kind of blown away that it actually happens.
Yeah, you can see my whole demeanor change when my daughter would run across the room and give me a hug or something. It's like,
yeah, right.
Welcome home. Yeah, it's crazy because she just turned 8. So, and I've been streaming for 9.5 years. So
wow.
a lot of my really long time viewers have been around as long as she has, and it's crazy. It's just like a big family sometimes.
It's awesome that it's lasted that long, because a lot of time, if you were making a full-time career out of streaming, sometimes taking time off like that can really hurt you as a full-time streamer. So it's pretty cool that the community, like you're saying, it's like a family, and I've had some similar experiences like that in the speedrunning community. We have our little niches within our niches, and you find things that you're passionate about, and you tend to stick together. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. Does it? Does all that time off make you miss it at all?
Sometimes it gets harder to come back because you feel like, gosh, like I wouldn't even know what to say. It's like, do I just start it up business as usual, or do I have to have a whole thing like, sorry, I've been away for so long, here's why? But yeah, it's sometimes being away makes it easier to stay away, sadly.
Well, and I can understand that, and that's definitely true. It's one of these things where if it's not fun, okay, I don't. Do you know Author Blues at all?
Yeah.
He's been on the podcast, and one thing that he says that I really wholeheartedly believe in is that do what you like and do what's fun for you. Otherwise, there's really no point in doing it. And I think that's a really great approach to speedrunning, streaming, all of this kind of stuff. And I don't know if you've felt that way at all or not, but I really appreciated that kind of advice.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Streaming a game you don't like is one of the most miserable experiences ever, and the viewers can tell when you're not having fun, and they're not going to have fun either unless they're bad viewers.
It's true. But no, it's a good point. If you're having fun, typically your audience will, your community will have fun as well. I think that's a really good point to make. Is there anything? So you did mention that you've been dabbling a little bit with the SMB3 speedrunning. Is there any other game that maybe has gotten away that you'd ever consider speedrunning or anything like that? Or
I've always had Zelda 2 in the back of my mind. But
so excited. Okay.
It's
such a tough speedrun. Oh my gosh, it's crazy.
I thought that look was like oh no.
No,
Zelda
I love
2.
Oh my gosh, Zelda 2 is the game. It's the one game I want to speedrun that I haven't gotten to as well yet.
Man. Yeah, I've always liked the game, and The speed run just looks so hard though. Even the quote unquote easy speed run, the 100%,
Right.
where you get to have light in caves.
So it brings up a
But
perfect.
that's the one I've thought about, but I've just never made the jump.
So when I first started speedrunning, I started trying Zelda 2, and I got through about the first palace ish, and then I found I started watching the SMB3 speedruns and watching your tutorial as we started the podcast. That tutorial is what somebody is actually telling me what to do. At the time that I started, Zelda 2 didn't have a tutorial that I was aware of, that I could find, that made sense to me. And finding somebody talking through a game and telling you how to do these things just was such an easier in to attempt to speedrun. And plus, speedrunning Mario 3 is so much fun. I mean, it's just flat out fun. I don't know if you still have fun with it, but it's a really fun game to speedrun.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But
Did you watch the whole 6 hours of that video?
I came pretty close. I still haven't done a warpless run, and that's the last. I probably didn't watch all 6 hours, but I spent a lot of time with it. The first category I submitted run was for 80% no wrong warp, and while it's not exactly the strategies in World 1 are basically the same, so you're doing the same thing. So it was, and the World 8 strats are pretty much the same as well, minus getting a fire flower. So it's like I really, it was just so helpful that there was something out there and you were trying to walk through it and stuff. Did you ever rewatch it before you had made it live or anything? Okay.
Not in its entirety. I go on so many tangents. It's so hard to do a live tutorial because you get questions and stuff distracts
You're saying
me.
hello. Yeah. I mean,
hey, how you doing? Yeah. Oh yeah. Let me get back to this thing I'm doing. I ramble and go on so many tangents during that whole video. I considered trimming it down at one point. It's like, nah.
No, you can't. No,
one's
you
gonna
can't.
watch it anyway.
Yeah. You can't trim it down now. No, it's got the history to it. But I mean, that's kind of the fun part where it makes it a little bit more personable when like you're questioning yourself, like, I'm not sure I'm going to do this. I'm not sure I'm going to do this. I'm like, oh, okay. If he's having problems with it, maybe I could actually try it. Like you made it approachable for somebody like me. So I appreciate that. Well, I'm glad that you still do. I don't know if you will continue to find time for streaming and things like that, but I've always appreciated the variety of content you bring, and you, at least in the past year or two, while you've streamed less, you still brought a variety to the table, and I hope it's been fun for you because the streams have been fun to watch. I don't know. So
it has been. I hope to continue much longer, but we'll see. I'm sure at least I'll be around here and there. I don't know. Consistency has been a problem for a long time, but finding the time has been hard lately. But if I ever get a consistent weekly chunk of time that I can commit to it, I imagine I'll still be around.
When you first, attempted your first race and got into the speedrunning thing, did you ever see it becoming the thing that it has become? Like, what's your perspective on the way that the speedrunning community has grown?
Yeah. No, I mean, I was happy to be a part of it. No, I couldn't have predicted the future, but SRL was booming at the time in those years, and I was on it all the time and happy to be a part of it. And I wish it was doing better now. It's basically just randomizers. But at least it's being used for something.
I still use it when I race bonk, but
but as far as the marathons and the size and scope and reach of those, no, I mean, they just get bigger every single year, and nobody could have predicted that. I don't think.
It's almost impossible to tell if certain people weren't a part of the community, would it be where it's at now. But I really do appreciate and I'm thankful for people like you who were taking some risks back then, and you were doing it just for fun. But we might not be where we're at if it weren't for people like you who were having fun on stream and sharing this craziness with the rest of the world. Because at some point, you got to imagine when during your 2-year grind, I mean, you got to feel like it's crazy at some point, right? Just resetting, getting a run, reset, all these resets.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah. Eventually, you just wonder, when am I going to be done with this? When can I move on?
Yeah.
And I've probably retired from it, half a dozen times. When I say, okay, I think I'm just done. I think I'm done now, for good.
It still
Here
blows
I
me.
am.
It's right. PB by 0.8.
You go and look at the leaderboards and say, oh, a couple more people have passed me. Yeah. And then you think, I could get back up there. That's all it takes.
You know, the Pooh was saying something about that, where it's like SMB3 is one of those things that stays in your fingers. Yes, you got to de-rust and everything, but that feeling really never goes away. Have you had that experience at all? Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's little details you forget. Maybe how long to hold a jump specifically in a few situations, but the main meat of the game is always right there. It's never hard to bust out 1-1 again.
Probably one of the reasons it's such a great speed run, you know. One more time, right? Yeah, exactly. Yep. You can always reset there. Well, I really do appreciate it, and I'm thankful for taking us down memory lane here, because I always do like hearing about what Twitch was like before Twitch and before we had some of the, GDQ has become this thing now where it's, thankfully we have a couple 100,000 people who we know are interested in speedrunning, because that's how many people watch GDQ, and that's pretty awesome to see where it's the humble beginnings into what it is now, and who knows where it goes from here. So... thank you so much for taking the time. If people want to find your place on the internet, you've mentioned you don't stream too often, but when you do, you are still on Twitch. Where can people find your stream and things like that?
Well, I'm at twitch.tv/WhenChukAttacks. I use Twitter sometimes, same handle. That's really the only places you'll find me. But
I do got to ask, have you always been Chuck when you've been streaming? Has it always been WhenChukAttacks? Has that been your screen name for the whole time? Wow, okay, cool. Is there any story behind that one?
Yeah, I've told it a few times on stream. This was back... Oh, there's a bug.
Perfect timing.
mosquito landing on my nose. This was Smash Brothers Melee game. Another competitive game that I really sunk a lot of time into and loved. You can only put a 4-letter name on your tag, and so my friend and I, who I played with all the time, we just made up a couple of fake names just to plug in. And I was Chuck, Chuk, and he was Ralph, Ralf, and that was that. And this was, wonder what year that was. Game came out, I think, in 2001. So this may have been a couple years after. So I've kind of held on to that name since, maybe 2003-ish. And then I was going to local Smash tournaments at a Game Crazy, RIP Game Crazy. Oh. We miss you. And we'd give our name, to the organizer, like what do we want to be called? And so I'd come up with I'd put Chuck and random sayings or whatever, and that would be my name. And then somehow I came up with WhenChukAttacks. Thought, man, I like that one. And so I stuck with that one and started using it as my streaming handle. And it's good because it's available on every website.
You were able to snag it on every website. Nice.
Yep. And so I just kept it.
Cool. Well, I can't believe that Melee is almost 20 years old now.
I know.
I feel like I was just playing Nintendo 64 in college like yesterday, but apparently that was 20 years ago. So there you go. there it happens.
It sure does. So fast.
Well, thank you for taking the time, and I really do appreciate it. And thanks for being here and sharing some stories. I really appreciate it, Chuck.
Yes, thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun revisiting all this.
Thanks everyone for listening and watching. If you're enjoying the podcast, subscribe, leave a review. All those things go a long way to helping out the podcast. If you'd like to continue the conversation, I'm on Twitter @LatMackey, or you can also join the LatMackey Discord, where we have a sequence break channel. We talk about guests, we have questions. It's really interactive, really fun. Please feel free to stop on by. Thanks so much. See you in the next one.